Chosen one, stop what you are doing. Do not move past this message. Your eyes did not land here by accident. Heaven interrupted your path because something over your life has shifted, and your spirit already knows this moment is not ordinary. God has said, enough. Stay here, because what was held back has begun to move. You have felt it all day. A strange pressure, a quiet pull, a weight sitting behind your ribs. You tried to call it stress, but deep inside you knew it was more than stress, because the air around you has felt different, like something old is losing its grip and something holy is coming close. Listen carefully. This is not another delay. This is not another circle. This is not another season where you pray, wait, cry, and wonder if heaven heard you at all. The word has already gone out over your life, and the thing that looked frozen has started moving in the unseen. That is why your rest has felt strange. That is why your sleep has been broken. That is why familiar rooms no longer feel familiar. You are standing between two versions of your life, and one of them is closing while the other one is being released by the hand of God. Do not fear the shaking. The shaking is not proof that God abandoned you. The shaking is proof that what could not follow you is being forced to let go. Something has been released, but before your hands can carry it, your spirit must understand what just broke. You have carried a heaviness no one could see. You smiled when you were tired. You answered when you wanted silence. You kept showing up for people who would not have crossed a street for you, and still you asked God if you were doing enough when your soul was already worn thin. You were not weak, you were worn down. There is a difference. Weakness means you had nothing in you. Weariness means you carried more than most people were ever assigned to carry, and you kept walking even when your knees were shaking under the weight of what no one understood. That is why this message found you now, not yesterday, not next week, now. There is divine timing around this encounter, and the enemy wanted you distracted right when heaven was preparing to confirm what your soul already sensed in the quiet places of your life. You have been feeling an ending. Maybe you could not name it. Maybe all you knew was that certain conversations felt empty, certain places felt heavy, certain people no longer felt safe to your spirit. And every time you tried to return to the old rhythm, something inside you resisted. That resistance is not rebellion. It is discernment, waking up. Your spirit is refusing to remain loyal to a season that has already expired, and the discomfort you feel is the space between who you were trained to be and who God is now calling forward. Chosen one, hear this carefully. God did not say, enough, because he was angry at you. He said it because the thing that has been draining you has overstayed its authority. The delay has overstayed. The confusion has overstayed. The counterfeit voices have overstayed. For too long, you believed silence meant denial. You thought closed doors meant rejection. You thought unanswered prayers meant heaven was deciding if you were worthy. But heaven was not questioning your worth. Heaven was removing what would have destroyed the blessing if it arrived too soon. You have asked why breakthrough seemed close and then disappeared. You have asked why every time you began to hope, another battle rose up. You have asked why the people you helped became the same people who misunderstood you, judged you, or quietly walked away. Here is the first truth. The enemy could not cancel what God released, so he tried to exhaust the person assigned to receive it. He could not erase the decree, so he attacked your clarity. He could not steal your calling, so he trained you to doubt your own discernment. That is why your mind has felt crowded. Too many voices, too many memories, too many unfinished conversations playing in the background. You wake up and feel like you are already behind, even when nothing has happened yet. Your body is present, but your spirit is tired. You are not imagining this. You are not being dramatic. You are not too sensitive. You are picking up movement in the unseen, and because you are a watchman, your spirit often feels the shift before your eyes can prove it. This is why you must stay. What has been released is bigger than a mood change. It is bigger than a good week. It is bigger than one answered prayer. Heaven is moving something connected to your identity, your direction, and the version of you that survived but cannot remain small. You have been in a narrow place. You learn to lower your voice. You learn to expect less. You learn to celebrate crumbs, because life convinced you that asking for fullness was dangerous. But God is not calling you into another crumb season. You did not survive all that warfare just to keep living beneath the level of your assignment. You did not endure betrayal just to become suspicious forever. You did not walk through silence just to lose your voice. Heaven kept you because there is still evidence inside you. Say this in your spirit: I was not forgotten. Say it slowly: I was not forgotten. Let it settle, because the lie of abandonment has been one of the deepest chains around your heart, and God is breaking that chain while you are listening. You are the one who kept praying when your emotions were tired. You are the one who kept giving when no one poured back into you. You are the one who kept sensing that a door was near, even when every visible sign told you nothing was changing. That was not foolish hope. That was holy memory. Your spirit remembered a promise your circumstances tried to bury, and every time you almost gave up, something invisible pulled you back from the edge and whispered that this was not the end. Now the atmosphere is changing. You may not see full evidence yet, but you can feel the shift in your reactions. What used to trigger you is losing power. What used to tempt you is losing flavor. What used to make you beg is no longer moving you the same way. This is how release begins. Not always with noise. Not always with applause. Sometimes it begins with a quiet refusal inside your chest. A refusal to keep apologizing for the calling God placed on your life before anyone had an opinion about you. You are not entering a season of proving. You are entering a season of receiving. But receiving will require you to stop defending the old version of yourself that survived by shrinking, hiding, pleasing, and explaining your wounds to people who benefited from your silence. That is why God had to say, enough. Not because you failed, not because you were late, not because heaven was tired of you. He said it because the old agreement could not be allowed to travel with you into what has just been opened. Chosen one, do not run from this. Do not numb it. Do not explain it away. Something has been released, and the next part will show you why the delay was never denial, why the shaking was never destruction, and why the old container could not hold the new oil. The delay was never denial. Let that enter you slowly. The waiting was not heaven turning away from you. It was God refusing to let you carry a promise into a version of your life that would have crushed it before it could breathe. You thought the silence meant nothing was happening. But silence is often where God does his deepest separating. He was not just preparing a blessing for you. He was preparing you to stop dragging old fear into the room where the blessing was supposed to land. That is why certain doors closed without warning. That is why certain people became distant. That is why conversations that once felt normal now feel heavy. God is not punishing you. He is removing every container that is too small for what has already been released. You asked for increase, but God had to remove the places that trained you to shrink. You asked for peace, but God had to expose the voices that profited from your anxiety. You asked for a new season, but God had to make the old season uncomfortable enough for you to stop calling it home. This is the part many chosen ones misunderstand. When God changes your season, He often changes your appetite first. You stop wanting what once impressed you. You stop chasing people who once controlled your emotions. You stop forcing yourself into rooms where your spirit keeps whispering, "This is not it." That whisper is not pride. It is alignment returning. Pride says you are better than everyone. Alignment says you can no longer betray your assignment to remain accepted by people who were only comfortable with the smaller version of you. You have been calling it confusion, but some of it is actually separation. You have been calling it loneliness, but some of it is divine protection. You have been calling it exhaustion, but some of it is your spirit refusing to keep carrying burdens God already marked for release. Look at the pattern. Every time you try to go backward, your peace leaves. Every time you try to explain yourself to the wrong person, your body tightens. Every time you say yes when your spirit says no, something inside you becomes heavy again. That heaviness is instruction. It is not random. It is heaven teaching your body what your mind has been too tired to admit. You cannot keep asking for the released promise while staying loyal to the habits, voices, and fears that kept you living beneath it. And I want to say this early, because some of you have already been asking for help with the inner clarity this season requires. This is not a break from the message. It is connected to the message. Later, I will explain it more fully, but I need to name it now with care. There is a sound tool called the Genius Song. It is a 7-minute audio designed around brain entrainment and gamma support, created for people who feel like their clarity, intuition, and inner sharpness have been buried under years of noise. You listen with headphones, and the purpose is simple. It is not here to replace prayer. It is not here to replace obedience. It is not here to turn this sacred message into a transaction. It is simply a tool for those who recognize that their mind has been crowded, their discernment has felt dim, and their spirit has been asking for a way back into focus. If your spirit already feels pulled toward that, the doorway is in the description and the pinned comment. I will come back to it later, after the message opens deeper. For now, just understand this. A released blessing can still be missed by a mind trapped in yesterday's noise. That is why clarity matters. That is why your inner atmosphere matters. That is why God is not only changing what is around you, He is changing what is happening inside you. The next door will require a version of you that can hear quickly, move cleanly, and stop negotiating with fear. The old you survived by overthinking. The new you will move by discernment. The old you asked everyone for confirmation. The new you will recognize the voice of God before the crowd has an opinion. The old you waited for permission. The new you will obey when heaven speaks. This is not about becoming harsh. It is about becoming clear. You can still be kind without being available for manipulation. You can still love people without letting them rewrite your assignment. You can still forgive without walking back into the cage God just opened. Some of you are being pulled out of emotional slavery. You called it loyalty. You called it patience. You called it being spiritual. But heaven calls it bondage when your kindness becomes a chain, and God is not releasing you just to watch you return to the same altar of exhaustion. That is why the release feels uncomfortable. Freedom often feels strange to someone who learned survival inside pressure. Peace can feel suspicious when chaos has been your normal. Open doors can feel dangerous when closed doors were the only thing you knew how to explain. But listen, you are not losing your life. You are losing the version of life that required you to abandon yourself. You are not being stripped because heaven is against you. You are being stripped because the false weight had to fall before the true mantle could rest. You have been carrying names God never gave you. Too difficult, too sensitive, too late, too broken, too much. These names were placed on you by people who could not understand your depth, and by seasons that punished you for being awake in a world that wanted you asleep. But God is changing the name over your life. You are not too much. You are carrying more capacity than your environment knew how to honor. You are not too sensitive. You are spiritually responsive. You are not behind. You were hidden until the appointed release. This is why the old container had to break. A container is anything that tells you how small you are allowed to become. It can be a relationship. It can be a routine. It can be a belief. It can be the voice inside you that says, do not hope too much, because disappointment is safer. God is confronting that voice today, not gently, not later, today. He is saying, enough to the agreement you made with disappointment. He is saying enough to the way you brace for loss before blessing can even arrive. He is saying enough to the fear that calls itself wisdom. You were not created to live in emotional defense forever. You were not anointed just to survive attacks. You were not preserved through all those battles so you could arrive at the edge of promise and still speak like someone abandoned. The release is not only around you, it is trying to rise through you. It is trying to change your posture, your language, your expectations, and the way you walk into a room. Because when God releases a new season, He first releases a new agreement inside the person who must carry it. This is why you felt restless. This is why you could not settle. This is why the old comfort started feeling like a cage. God was not making you unstable. He was making you unavailable for the patterns that once convinced you to choose familiar pain over unfamiliar obedience. And some people will not understand the shift. They will say you changed. They will say you are distant. They will say you are acting different. Let them speak. Their confusion is not your instruction. Sometimes people only call you changed because they no longer have access to the version of you they could control. Do not explain every boundary. Do not apologize for every withdrawal. Do not keep sending long messages to people who already know what they did. Your next season will require energy, and you cannot keep spending holy strength on conversations God already ended in your spirit. This does not mean you become cold. It means you become governed. A governed spirit does not react to every pull. A governed spirit does not answer every accusation. A governed spirit knows that silence can be obedience when speech would only reopen a door heaven closed. You are being trained to trust the release before the evidence appears. That is the test. Anyone can praise after the miracle becomes visible, but a chosen one learns to shift posture when heaven speaks, even while the room still looks the same. So stop calling this empty. It is not empty. It is transition. Stop calling this loss. It is separation. Stop calling this delay. It is divine timing, finishing its last hidden work before what has been released begins to take shape where others can finally see it. The reason you have not seen it fully yet is not because God lied. It is because the unseen always moves first. The decree moves before the document. The spirit shifts before the circumstance. The atmosphere changes before the door opens. Stay with me, because now I need to show you why this is not just your personal feeling. This pattern is written all through the stories of those God chose before you. Every major release looked invisible before it became undeniable. And your life is following that same holy pattern. Now watch the pattern. Every time heaven releases something great, the first evidence is almost always hidden. People want proof first. God often gives instruction first. People want the door to open before they move. God often tells the chosen one to move while the door still looks sealed. That is why your season has felt confusing. You were looking for visible evidence, but heaven was teaching you to recognize invisible movement. The release did not begin when people clapped for you. The release began when God spoke over you in a place where no one else could hear. Moses did not look ready when God called him. He was not standing in a palace with confidence. He was hidden in the wilderness, carrying questions, shame, and the memory of who he used to be. And still, God spoke before anyone else saw the leader inside him. That matters for you. You have been judging your release by how ready you feel. You keep saying, "When I feel stronger, then I will move. When I understand everything, then I will obey." But God often releases the assignment before the person feels prepared. Moses tried to explain his weakness. He looked at his mouth. He looked at his fear. He looked at his history and thought those things could disqualify him. But heaven was not asking Moses to be impressive. Heaven was asking Moses to trust the voice that called him. This is why the enemy fights your clarity so hard. He knows if you ever believe the word God spoke over you, you will stop negotiating with the wilderness. You will stop calling exile your home, and you will stop asking bound people to confirm your freedom. Now look at David. The oil was released before the throne appeared. He was anointed in a quiet place, but the palace did not immediately open. After the oil touched his head, he still returned to fields, sheep, caves, battles, and years of waiting. That is the hidden pattern. Anointing often comes before visibility. Release often comes before possession. Heaven may name you before people respect you, because God is not waiting for public approval to confirm what he already placed inside you. David could have thought nothing changed. The same fields were still there. The same brothers still underestimated him. The same ordinary chores still waited for him. But something had shifted, because the unseen had already marked him for what the visible world would recognize later. This is why you cannot worship appearances. Appearances lag behind decrees. Circumstances lag behind alignment. People lag behind what heaven has already decided. If you judge too early, you will call the field a failure when the field is where kings learn obedience. David was not delayed because God forgot him. He was delayed because the throne required a different weight than the field. The release was real, but the formation was real too. God was not only preparing a seat for David, he was preparing David to sit without becoming like Saul. And then there is Joseph. He received dreams before he received position. He saw pictures of elevation while his life moved into betrayal, a pit, slavery, false accusation, and prison. To the natural eye, his life looked like the opposite of the promise. But the promise was not dead. It was traveling through hidden rooms. Every place that looked like a setback was secretly teaching Joseph how to carry what the dream had shown him. The pit did not cancel the dream. The prison did not cancel the dream. Someone listening right now needs to receive that. The betrayal did not cancel what God released. The rejection did not cancel what God released. The years that seemed wasted did not cancel what God released. They trained your discernment and exposed who could not travel with you. This is why you must stop despising hidden obedience. Your small yes is not small in the spirit. Your quiet forgiveness is not small. Your refusal to become bitter is not small. Your decision to keep your heart clean is not small. Now here is where it goes deeper. Moses shows you the call. David shows you the oil. Joseph shows you the hidden root. But all three reveal one truth. God releases identity before he releases the environment that matches it. That is why this message is confronting you. You have been waiting for the environment to change before you change your agreement. You have been waiting for peace before you stand in authority. You have been waiting for proof before you stop speaking like someone abandoned. This is why your clarity matters. If your mind is full of noise, you can stand in front of an open door and still think it is a wall. If your spirit is tired, you can receive instruction and mistake it for pressure. What heaven calls discernment, many researchers describe through patterns of brain activity. Gamma is often linked with clarity, insight, flow, and those sudden knowing moments that arrive before logic can explain them. This does not replace faith, but it helps explain why inner noise can make obedience harder. Some leading research communities, including places like Massachusetts Institute of Technology, Princeton, and Harvard, have explored how brain rhythms relate to focus, perception, and learning. But for the chosen one, this is a bridge between the mind God designed and the spirit God keeps awakening. You have felt the difference before. There were moments when you just knew. You could read a room. You could sense a lie. You could feel when a person carried peace or poison. You could make decisions quickly because something inside you was clear. Then life got loud, pain got loud, survival got loud, betrayal got loud. The more your inner world filled with alarms, the harder it became to hear the quiet instruction of God. The gift did not disappear, but the noise made it feel buried. That is why the enemy did not only attack your circumstances, he attacked your inner signal. He wanted your thoughts scattered, your sleep broken, your emotions pulled in 10 directions, and your attention so divided that you would miss the exact instruction attached to your release. Chosen one, this is the hidden war. The enemy is not only afraid of what God gives you, he is afraid of who you become when you can hear clearly again. A clear chosen one is dangerous to darkness, because clarity turns survival into obedience. This is why the next part will be strong. The real release is not only money, not only a door, not only a relationship, not only public vindication. Those things may come, but they are not the first thing heaven is restoring. The first release is the true you, the version of you before disappointment taught you to shrink, the version of you before betrayal trained you to over-explain, the version of you before delay convinced you to expect less and call fear wisdom. You are about to understand why God said, "Enough." Not only to the enemy around you, but to the agreement inside you that kept answering to an old season. Stay with me, because what comes next will expose the hidden blocker your spirit has carried for years. Now we come to the part the enemy did not want you to hear. The release is not waiting for permission from your fear. The release is not asking your past if it is allowed to move. God has already spoken, and the old season has lost its authority. The hidden blocker was not only around you, it was inside the agreement you made while you were tired. You agreed to expect less. You agreed to speak smaller. You agreed to call survival wisdom, because every time you hoped deeply, disappointment seemed to answer first. But God says, enough. Enough delay. Enough shrinking. Enough begging people to see what heaven already named. Enough carrying those God removed. Enough entering tomorrow with yesterday's frequency and calling it caution when it is really fear wearing a spiritual mask. This is not condemnation. Hear that clearly. God is not exposing this to shame you. He is exposing it to free you, because the version of you that survived the storm cannot be the same version that carries what has just been released. You learned how to survive by lowering your expectation. You learned how to stay safe by not asking for too much. You learned how to avoid heartbreak by telling yourself that maybe the promise was not for you. But that was not humility. That was pain pretending to be wisdom. That was disappointment training your language. That was the enemy whispering through old wounds until you started believing that smallness was protection. But God has interrupted that lie today with one word: enough. The release is real. Say that inside yourself. The release is real. The decree has already gone forward. The door has already received its order. The provision has already heard your name. The atmosphere around your next season has already begun to change. But now your agreement must change. You cannot receive a released season while speaking like a rejected soul. You cannot walk into divine provision while rehearsing poverty in your spirit. You cannot enter a new door while still asking old voices if you are allowed to move. This is where freedom begins, not when everyone apologizes, not when every enemy is exposed, not when the full evidence arrives. Freedom begins when you stop letting the wound define what God is allowed to do through you. God says enough to the fear that made you hide. God says enough to the confusion that made you double-check what He already confirmed. God says enough to the shame that made you feel unworthy of good things arriving without struggle attached. You have been trained to expect warfare every time blessing comes near. You flinch when things get quiet. You question peace because chaos became familiar. You wonder if open doors are traps because closed doors taught you to protect yourself from hope. But this time is different. Not because there will be no resistance, but because you are not the same person who entered the last battle. Your discernment is sharper. Your spirit is heavier with authority. Your silence is no longer weakness. What has been released is not only an opportunity. It is not only a financial shift. It is not only a restored relationship, a new door, or a public vindication. Those things may follow, but the first release is the true version of you rising again. The version before people taught you to apologize for your light. The version before betrayal made you suspicious of love. The version before delay convinced you that heaven had changed its mind. That version is being called back by God, and darkness is terrified. This is why you felt pressure before the message found you. Your spirit was standing at the edge of a decree. The old life was trying to pull you backward, but heaven was pushing forward. And that tension is what you felt in your chest. Now listen closely. Earlier, I mentioned a sound tool called the Genius Song. I named it briefly because some of you already knew that the battle was not only around your circumstances, It was also around your inner clarity. Now, I need to explain why it belongs inside this message. This is not about replacing prayer. This is not about replacing obedience. This is not about becoming someone else. It is about helping restore the inner focus and signal that the enemy tried to bury under years of fear, noise, and delay. The Genius Song is a 7-minute digital audio track designed around brain entrainment, created to support gamma activity in the brain. Gamma is often connected with clarity, intuition, flow, learning, and those sudden knowing moments when your spirit and your mind seem to align at the same time. Dr. Robert Lake, a neuroscientist with 34 years of experience, developed this track around the idea that your brain can be gently guided through sound patterns. You listen with headphones. You sit quietly. You do not need a complicated ritual, a long meditation, or a new personality. That matters for the chosen one. You were not born empty. You were born carrying unusual sensitivity, deep perception, and a kind of knowing that often appeared before logic caught up. But life got loud, and that God-given clarity began to feel buried. Some people call it mental fog. Some call it exhaustion. Some call it being stuck. But for many chosen ones, it feels like this. I know there is more inside me, but I cannot seem to reach the version of me that used to hear, decide, and move with confidence. That is the bridge. The Genius Song is not trying to give you a false identity. It is designed to support the return of what was already placed inside you. The clarity, the sharpness, the inner signal, the ability to recognize what God is saying without being drowned by the noise. There was a man, 51 years old, who had been unemployed for almost 2 years after his company reduced staff. He was not lazy, he was not incapable. He said the hardest part was walking into interviews with a mind that felt covered in fog. After 11 days of using the Genius Song, he received his first job offer, and it was better than the position he had lost. What moved me most was what he said after. He said the shift was not only on his resume, the shift was in his head. That is the kind of testimony that matters here. Not magic, not hype, not pretending life has no process. It is the quiet return of clarity, decision, and movement after a long season where everything inside you felt delayed. And he is not the only one. The Genius Song has now been used by 18,366 people, and the refund rate is framed at less than 4%. That means most people who step into it continue with it after the guarantee window. That combination matters. A large number alone can sound impressive, but continuation tells a deeper story. When people keep using something after the first emotion fades, it usually means they are experiencing enough value to stay with the process. Now think about what people usually try when they want peace or focus. A meditation app can cost around $15 every month. A personal growth course can run $100 to $200. A single therapy session can cost around $150. A weekend spiritual retreat can cost $400 to $800. And even professional brain training sessions can become expensive very quickly. Some of those paths may help people, but most of them are not specifically designed around gamma support in a simple 7-minute sound format. Dr. Lake took the core technology and placed it into a track you can use at home. The original price is $49, but for viewers of this message, it is available for $39 as a one-time access. No subscription, no shipping. It arrives digitally, and it also comes with 4 bonuses. There is Genius Child, valued at $19. There is the classic book connected to the deeper roots of success principles, valued at $20. There is a guided visualization, valued at $29. There is also a 5-habit infographic, valued at $12, made to help you keep your daily state more aligned after you begin the process. Together, the bonuses add up to $80 in value, and they are included with the $39 access. There is also a 90-day money-back guarantee. If you try it and decide it is not for you, you can request a refund with no conditions. And because the bonuses are digital, you still keep all 4 bonuses as a thank you for the time you invested. So the risk is not really in trying. The greater risk is stepping into a released season with the same scattered signal that made you miss instructions before. The greater risk is letting yesterday's noise follow you into tomorrow's door. But I need to protect you here. There are counterfeit pages and copycat sounds using similar names. Some are just ordinary audio with no real brain entrainment design behind them. Do not search for it on Amazon, Spotify, YouTube, or random marketplaces. The verified doorway is the link in the description and the pinned comment under this message. That is the only place connected to the original track, the full bonus package, and the 90-day guarantee. If your spirit is pulled toward it, use that path only. Now pause for a moment. Put one hand over your chest if you can. Take a slow breath. This is not a decision about $39. This is a decision about whether you are willing to stop carrying the old frequency into the season God has released. Breathe again. Do not rush. If your spirit says yes, you already know what to do. The doorway is below this message, in the description and the pinned comment. Step through it with peace, not pressure, and let your next obedience be clean. Now return to the decree. God has said enough. Enough delay, enough fog, enough counterfeit direction, enough fear disguised as caution, enough letting the old version of you speak over a future that heaven has already marked for release. Do not leave yet. What has been released must now be sealed by your own mouth. The next part is not just an ending, it is a declaration, and your words are about to agree with what heaven has already spoken over your life. Do not leave yet. This is the sealing moment. What heaven has released must now meet agreement in your mouth, your spirit, and your posture. You are not just listening anymore. You are stepping into alignment with the word God has already spoken over your life. Take a slow breath. Let your shoulders drop. Let the old tension leave your body. You do not have to fight for what God has already commanded to move, but you do have to stop agreeing with the voice that told you nothing would ever change. Place one hand over your chest if you can, not as a ritual of fear, not as a performance. Let it be a sign that your heart is no longer available for the old season, because the place that carried disappointment is now becoming a place of holy agreement. Say this slowly in your spirit. I receive what God has released. I receive the door. I receive the clarity. I receive the peace. I receive the courage to move when heaven speaks, even if the room around me still looks the same. Say this now. I release the identity that only knew how to survive. I release the version of me that apologized for needing rest. I release the part of me that expected rejection before love could arrive, and I release the fear that made smallness feel safe. This is not just a sentence, it is a separation. You are separating from the language of delay. You are separating from the posture of begging. You are separating from the habit of explaining your worth to people who were never assigned to approve your calling. Now say this. I reject every counterfeit voice. I reject every false burden. I reject every relationship that feeds on my exhaustion. I reject every memory that tries to tell me my future must look like my past. I belong to the word God has spoken. Let that settle. You are not being cruel when you stop returning to what broke you. You are not being proud when you finally believe heaven. You are not being disloyal when you obey God more than you obey the expectations of wounded people. Say this with authority. I step into clarity. I step into alignment. I step into divine timing. I will not carry yesterday into tomorrow. I will not call fear wisdom. I will not call bondage loyalty. I will not call delay my permanent identity. Something is changing as you agree. Your spirit knows it. The old voice is getting weaker. The old pressure is losing its command. The old pull is not as strong as it was, because your mouth is now refusing to bless what God already judged as expired. Now listen to this blessing. May every hidden chain around your mind break. May every cloud over your discernment lift. May every counterfeit path lose its attraction. May your spirit become sensitive again to the quiet instruction of God. May your sleep become lighter in peace, not heavier in warfare. May your mornings stop feeling like battles before your feet touch the floor. May the heaviness in your chest give way to holy strength, and may your body finally learn that the old season has ended. May the door that is yours refuse to stay closed. May the provision assigned to you find the aligned version of you. May the people who were sent by God recognize your spirit clearly, and may the people sent to drain you lose access without drama. You are not behind. You are being positioned. You are not forgotten. You are being remembered in rooms you have not entered yet. You are not invisible. Heaven has kept a record of every sacrifice, every silent tear, and every night you chose not to quit. The release is no longer only above you. It is moving through you. It is touching the way you think. It is touching the way you speak. It is touching the way you choose. It is touching the way you stop bowing to what God never called holy. Do not be surprised when your reactions change. Do not be surprised when old temptations feel empty. Do not be surprised when certain names no longer stir panic in your chest. That is not numbness. That is freedom beginning to sound normal inside you. Do not be surprised when clarity returns in small ways first. A clean no, a quiet yes, a sudden knowing, a peaceful withdrawal. A decision that used to take months may rise in your spirit with a simplicity that feels strange, because the fog is no longer allowed to govern you. This is why you must protect the next few days. Protect your attention, protect your sleep, protect your mouth, protect your atmosphere. Not everyone deserves access to the early stages of what God has released, because premature exposure can invite noise before the promise has settled. You do not need to announce every change. You do not need to defend every boundary. You do not need to explain every silence. Let your obedience speak first. Let your peace speak first. Let the fruit appear before you hand your future to public opinion. If this message has confirmed what your spirit already knew, write these words in the comments. It has been released. Not as a random phrase, not as decoration. Write it as agreement, because your comment is becoming a witness that the old season no longer owns your expectation. And if this message carried weight for you, press like so. Another chosen one can receive the same confirmation. Someone is sitting in silence right now, wondering if God forgot them, and your small action can help this message find the person who is almost ready to give up. Subscribe if your spirit knows this is not the last instruction you need. Do not follow from fear. Follow from recognition. There is a difference. Fear chases noise. Recognition follows a voice that keeps confirming what God has already been whispering inside you. For those who know they are ready for the sound anchor I mentioned, the doorway remains below this message. You will find it in the description and the pinned comment. Move with peace, not pressure. Let your spirit be clear and use only the verified path. Remember what I said. Do not search random places. Do not let counterfeit sounds borrow your trust. If you feel called to step into the genius song, go through the doorway connected to this message, where the original track, the bonuses, and the guarantee are protected together. But whether you move there now or later, do not miss the deeper command. God has said, enough. Enough confusion. Enough shrinking. Enough emotional slavery. Enough waiting for people to validate what heaven already released. Enough treating your promise like a rumor. You are a chosen one. You are a watchman of the new season. You are a cycle breaker with holy memory in your bones. You are not leaving this message the same way you entered it, because something in you has agreed with heaven again. Now breathe one more time. Slowly. Let this be sealed. What was delayed is moving. What was hidden is rising. What was stolen is being addressed. What was spoken over your life is not dead, and what God has released will not return empty. Walk differently after this. Speak differently after this. Rest differently after this. Do not go back to the old posture. just because the old environment still looks familiar. The decree moved first. The evidence will follow. It has been released. Let that be the sound in your spirit. It has been released. Let that be the answer to fear. It has been released. Let that be the sentence you carry into the next door, the next morning, and the next instruction from God. And may the peace of God guard your mind as you move. May the fire of God strengthen your spirit as you wait. May the hand of God guide your steps as the visible world begins to catch up with what heaven has already declared. Chosen one, this is your confirmation. The old season has lost its legal voice. The delay has lost its throne. The fog has lost its permission. God has spoken over you, and the word is enough. It changes today. It has been released.